You've probably heard it before, right? The chronic diseases like Alzheimer's are just genetic garbage, that it's all locked into your DNA and there's not much you can do. Well, what if I told you that's mostly not true? That you have way more control than you think? Let's get into it.
So check this out. When we look at a really devastating disease like Alzheimer's, the actual genetic part, it's only about 5% of the risk. Just 5%. That means a whopping 95% is all environmental. Now that includes stuff like air pollution and microplastics for sure, but the biggest piece of that pie is what we're putting on our plates every single day.
And just how big of a factor is our food? Well, according to Dr. Robert Lustig, who's a leading expert on this stuff, nearly 3/4 of everything in your average grocery store is ultra-processed and packed with hidden sugars. They're literally designed to make us buy more. And this whole situation creates two huge problems inside our bodies.
So first, let's talk about the brain. Have you ever felt like you're completely out of control around certain foods? Like you know you shouldn't, but you just can't stop? Well, it's not a lack of willpower. It's biochemistry. It's what we call the hostage brain.
Okay, here's how it works. Our modern lives are, well, they're stressful, right? All that stress puts our brain's fear center, the amygdala, on high alert all the time. To cope with that constant feeling of threat and, psychological pain, our brain starts desperately looking for relief. And guess where it finds it? In things that give us a big hit of dopamine, like sugar. It becomes this way to just numb out, creating a really vicious cycle. Now, dopamine itself isn't bad. We need it for learning, for motivation, for feeling rewarded. The real problem is when you're just constantly blasting your brain with these massive sugar-fueled dopamine spikes. Your brain's receptors basically get exhausted and start to shut down. You build up a tolerance, and you get less of a reward each time. And that tolerance leads you straight down the path to addiction. Think about it. The first time you have that super sugary coffee drink, you like it. It feels amazing. The next time you find yourself wanting it. And before you know it, you get to a point where you feel like you need it just to feel normal. That little switch from wanting to needing, well, that's the literal biochemical definition of addiction.
Okay, so that's what's happening in our brain's reward system. But the problem goes way deeper. It's happening inside every single one of our cells. It's a full-on cellular energy crisis.
So inside our cells, we've got these incredible little power plants called mitochondria. You can think of them just like a car engine. A car's engine turns fuel into energy to make the car go. Well, mitochondria turn the food we eat into a chemical energy called ATP. And ATP is the juice that powers literally everything your body does.
But here's the catch. When our mitochondria have to process junk, like ultra-processed foods and artificial sweeteners, they create these really nasty byproducts. They're called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short. Just think of them as toxic exhaust fumes that start gumming up the engine and damaging the cell. Now, our bodies have a cleanup crew of antioxidants to handle these fumes, but when we're constantly flooding the system with foods that generate tons of ROS, that cleanup crew just gets completely overwhelmed. So the cell does the only thing it can. It goes into lockdown. It actually stops producing ATP to prevent any more damage. And that's when the energy crisis really begins.
So what does a brain running on an empty tank feel like? Well, it starts with things you might brush off, a little brain fog, maybe you're more irritable. Then it gets harder to concentrate. Over time, this energy shortage can lead to depression, and ultimately, it's this exact process that causes those infamous dementia plaques to start forming in the brain.
Okay, I know that all that sounds pretty bleak, but here is the genuinely good news. This is not our destiny. We can absolutely fix this, and the solution is way simpler than you might think. It really comes down to 4 clear, easy-to-follow rules for eating real food. The whole strategy can be boiled down to these 3 simple goals. Whatever you eat should do these 3 things. Protect your liver so it's not overwhelmed, feed the good bacteria in your gut, and support your brain. That's it. Protect the liver, feed the gut, support the brain. So how do we actually do that? How do we put that into practice? All right, let's break down the 4 simple rules that will get you there. Rule number 1. When you go to the grocery store, just shop the perimeter. Seriously, the outside aisles are where all the real food hangs out. The fresh produce, the meat and fish, the eggs. The middle aisles, that's the danger zone. That's where all the ultra-processed packaged stuff is hiding. Rule number 2 is the 3-ingredient rule. And this one is a game changer. You don't have to be a nutritionist. Just look at the first 3 ingredients on the label.
If any form of sugar is on that short list, and remember, there are over 260 names for it, then that food is a dessert. Treat it like one, end of story.
Rule 3. Eat your fruit, don't drink it. This one trips a lot of people up. A whole piece of fruit is amazing for you because its fiber creates this protective web in your gut that slows down how fast the sugar gets absorbed. It protects your liver. But when you juice a fruit, you throw all that amazing fiber away. All you're left with is sugar water that hits your liver like a freight train. And finally, rule number 4. This one is more of a mental shortcut, but it is so effective. If a food has a TV commercial, you should probably avoid it. Think about it. Real food, like an apple or a cucumber, doesn't have a multi-million-dollar marketing budget. The products that are advertised everywhere are almost always the ultra-processed ones.
Now look, breaking free from this stuff can feel really tough, but it is totally possible. The science shows it takes about 3 weeks of staying away from a big stimulus, like sugar, for your brain's dopamine receptors to start healing and coming back online. It takes a little time, but your brain can absolutely bounce back.
So just remember that 95% figure. While genetics plays its small part, the vast majority of your health is determined by your choices. And knowing that, well, that's incredibly empowering. It means you're in the driver's seat. So the only question left is, what choice are you going to make today?